traditional to acknowledge country as we pass through. So today I'd like to thank the traditional custodians of the lands and waterways in which we are travelling through today, and thank the elders past, present and future for their continued custodianship. Today we are on Camera Land, and I'd like to thank you everyone to be here. Before we're going to do brown bag today, before she starts, I'd like to hand over to Associate Professor Taryn Sanders to introduce today's brown bag speaker.
Thanks. So lovely to welcome Marion to IPPE. She's here from the University of Bern doing a short tour of Australia, visiting a bunch of different institutes to learn more about skill-based physical activity programs. They're developing a program themselves, which, or delivering a program, I should say, that Marion's going to tell us about, and running into many of the challenges that we've had developing a program that's meant to be delivered at standard. So I think she's here looking for answers in a quest to sort of make kids more active in a way that's scalable and affordable and
yeah, sure. Yeah, thanks for the introduction and hello everybody. I'm Marion from the University of Bern. And yeah, I'm doing actually a short stay in Australia. So I applied for a short travel grant. So my supervisor or my professor from back home, Mirko Schmidt, he was actually here in Australia some years ago, and he visited the team from David Lubens in Newcastle. And yeah, there he heard about this idea about whole school approaches and came back home to Switzerland with the idea to implement like a whole school approach in Switzerland. And that's why we're actually doing the Active School Project, comprehensive school physical activity program back home in Switzerland. And then that's why my idea was would be nice to apply for a short travel grant to come here to Australia, where the idea actually grew. And I stayed 2 weeks in Newcastle before, and now this weekend I came here to Sydney, and I will stay till Friday in a week, so in total 2 weeks. Yes, and yeah, it would be really nice to learn from you guys about how it could be possible to scale up active school for the future, because you're experienced in this area. But today I will present you some, or I'll present. Okay, you can do it for me. I'll give you some insights about active school. So what are we doing in Switzerland and how are we following this whole school approach in Switzerland? So here you can see actually our team, the Active School Project back home in Bern. It's like a collaboration project between the University of Bern and between the University of Teacher Education. And we are actually 6 people running this project. We have like Mirko on the left side, the lead from the University of Bern. Then next to him is Stefan. He's actually in the lead from the side from the Teacher University or University of Teacher Education. Then we have Fabienne, she's the project coordinator. Then me, I'm doing the PhD in the project, and I'm actually responsible for the effectiveness evaluation. And then we have Andrea, she's the other PhD in the project, and she's responsible for the process evaluation, so more like qualitative data. And then as well, Mario, he's like helping in all these different things. We need some help, yes. So then maybe a little bit of an overview. First, I will give you some insights about Swiss settings. So how is actually the Swiss setting structured in school physical activity promotion, that you there have like a little bit of a background. Then how is the Active School Project actually working, or how are we working together with the schools? And there I really want to focus on the physical activity leader training. And then I will give you an insight into the evaluation concept. So how are we doing like the process evaluation and the effectiveness evaluation? And in the end, some initial results from the baseline measurements, because at the moment we don't have all the data yet, but I can give you some initial insights in first results. And in the end, for sure, should be some time for some questions and discussions that would be nice. How is the Swiss school setting, or how is the Swiss school setting structured, or how does the coordination of school physical activity promotion looks like in a Swiss setting? So we have like the government, the Federal Office of Sports in Switzerland, and they say, there is like this obligation that all the schools in Switzerland, they need to do like 3 physical activity or PE lessons per week. So that means around 130 minutes per week the schools need to do, or there's like this obligation to do like PE per week. And all the PE lessons, they should be taught by qualified PE teachers. So the students or the students who are going to be teachers, also the primary school teachers, they have to do like some PE courses during their studies. So they are actually qualified to teach afterwards physical activity in physical education in schools. Yes. And next to these obligations, what the government told about, they also have like some recommendations, because we see now Swiss data that not all the adolescents and children are meeting actually the physical activity recommendations of the daily 60 minutes of moderate to vigorous physical activity. And that's why the government is also saying, yeah, it should be nice, or it would be nice when next to PE, you can also implement some more physical activity into the whole school day during some other settings, for example, during physical activity promotion in class, or during recess, or before and after school segments. But yeah, next to the obligations, these are just some recommendations. And next to the government, we have like the cantons, and the cantons, I think it's maybe similar to some states like New South Wales state. And we have 27 cantons, and yeah, the Swiss political system works in a federalistic way. So all the cantons, they have like a huge, or they're like autonomous, and they have a look at the obligations, and they have like these sports strategies for the schools. And in all the sports strategies is written that they need to be like 3 PE lessons per week. But when they had a look at the recommendations, yeah, they're just like recommendations. So it really depends on the cantons and on the leadership from the cantons if there is something written in the strategies about some further PE recommendations in school, or some further PE promotion in some further settings in schools. And then we have like the schools, and yeah, the schools, they have a look on the canton strategies. And when like the leaderships from the cantons, they really like focus on some further physical activity promotions during other settings next to PE, then some schools are implementing this, but for sure not all of them. So it really depends like on the leaderships from the canton, if there is like a focus on some additional physical activity promotion next to PE. Yeah, this is like the political system. And next to the political system, we have like a lot of third-party providers who are like offering some physical activity projects or promotion projects for the schools to actually promote more physical activity next to PE. And we have like walk to school, bike to school, pedibus or Devibel. These are like more physical activity promotion programs for the commuting, like active commuting. Or we have like Schule bewegt. This means like schools move, something like this, Fit for Future or Purzelbaum. These are more like projects who are focusing to give some materials or resources like physical activity breaks, ideas to the schools that they can also implement more physical activity, for example, in the classroom or during recess. But all these programs actually have in common that most of them are like more focused for primary schools and not for secondary schools. And when we have a look like on the physical activity level from children and adolescents in Switzerland, we see that there's really a huge gap between children and adolescents. So adolescents, they move really less than the children's. And all of these programs, they're like, yeah, one-shot interventions. So most of them, it is like in a way, interested teachers on principle, they apply for like a program or sign up for a program. They do the program for some weeks, for example, bike to school. And after some amount of weeks, the program is like done and the project is like not sustainable. So that's why we wanted to implement like a sustainable program and like a whole school program, and whole school in that way that physical activity is really like promoted in different parts of the school, not only during PE, and like in a sustainable way, that it is implemented in a regular way and goes further for some years and not only for some weeks. And yeah, that is possible to implement it like in a sustainable way. The leadership level or the leadership support in the school is really important. And that's why we decided or heard about this CSPAP program, the Comprehensive School Physical Activity Program. And we wanted actually to adapt this program to the Swiss school setting. So we, because CSPAP, the name is not known in German, so that's why we call it now active school. But the idea is exactly the same as in CSPAP, and maybe some of you are familiar with this figure. We have like some other icons and some other colors, but the idea is exactly the same as in CSPAP. So it's like a whole school approach in a sustainable way. So we actually motivate the schools. And we do the project with secondary school students or with secondary schools because we see there this gap in the physical activity level. So we motivate the schools to implement some physical activity goals in different school setting, and they can decide by their own in what kind of setting they want to set some goals and afterwards implement some physical activity measures, because the goals, they should like fit to the individual schools. And that's why they do in the beginning like a need assessment, and then they set like individual goals for their individual schools, so they can like do more physical activity promotion next to PE during school, for example, during classroom time or recess, before and after school, with the commuting. Staff involvement could be also nice, that the teachers are doing like more physical activity to prove to be like a role model, or like family and community involvement also to do like to inform like the parents that physical activity promotion is important. Yeah, afterwards, after the school set like these individual goals, they can set like 1 goal, 2 goal, or three goals, and they decide in what kind of key area they want to set the goals. And afterwards, the leadership level is really important. So all the schools, they have like a physical activity leader, 1 or 2, and these physical activity leaders that are like school intern teachers. Most of them are PE teachers, but not all, and they are then actually responsible that the physical activity goals are set, and then also like that they follow, or the whole school follows the goals and start to implement them. And the physical activity leaders, they have some support from the physical activity or physical active committee, some other teachers who are like supporting the physical activity leaders, and for sure as well, supportive principal. And yeah, that in the end, the idea is actually that the schools have like individual goals, and they start to implement physical activity measures to reach actually these goals. That in the end, the school culture is going to be an active school culture when the school is actually implementing the active school. Yeah, that's about the project idea. And I mean, the CSPAP is like a evaluated concept, and there are a lot of international guidelines. How or what should you do when you want to implement like the CSPAP? And all these guidelines are written in English or in English language, and we cannot give the guidelines to our German schools and say, yeah, let's try to implement active school. And yeah, in these guidelines, you can always read, you have like these 7 implementation steps. So first you need to do like a need assessment. Afterwards, you need to, you need to choose like a physical activity leader, do need assessment. You need to choose a physical activity committee, set the goals, and so on. So we translated the guidelines to German, that we had like the Swiss adaptation, and we also did some adaptations for the Swiss school setting or the Swiss school system, that we have like now this German guidelines. And then we started like a pilot project in 2021. So we gave these guidelines to 1 school, and in this school we had like 1 physical activity leader that was a PE teacher. And yeah, we just gave him the guidelines. He went through the whole guidelines and through these different steps, what he needs to do when he want to implement like CSPAP. or active school. And in the beginning, we supported him. And yeah, then he started to set some goals and try to inform the whole teacher staff, and then try to implement or start implementing some physical activity measures or goals. And yeah, we were always in contact with him and had a little bit of chat, how it is working, what is not working. And then he really told us that the initial support from the side from the research team was really important. I mean, not only only to have like the guidelines is for sure not enough. And he really appreciated the support from the research team. And that's why we decided to do, like, when we want to go further with the RCT and do the project with more schools, for sure we have to do like a training sessions with all the physical activity leaders, that we can give them the guidelines, but also that we support them during the first year or during the first implementation year a little bit closer, that they have like more support also from outside, from the research team. And the idea from this physical activity leader training is actually that the physical activity leader, that they come to us, to the Institute of Sports Science in Bern, and they do a workshop. We give them some information about the project, some theoretical informations, and also resources. Then they go back to school. They try to do some like homework from our side, or they always had like a task to do in school. Then they come back to us again to the workshop. We discuss with them what they experienced, and then they go back to school. That it is like a running circle. And so during the first workshop, before they actually start to implement some physical activity measures, it's just like a preparation workshop. So we gave them some information about the project, and we gave them also some resources to do actually the need assessment. So that they afterwards, they went back to school and they did like some questionnaires with the teachers and with the students, and asked them actually, so what is actually, or what are your needs for physical activity promotion in school? So what do you really want? How do you want to promote more physical activity in schools? And then they also had the task to do like onboarding with the physical activity committee, to look like for some other teachers who want to be part of this physical activity committee. And yeah, that was actually the first task of the first workshop. And then they came back to the second workshop, and we analyzed with them the results from the need assessment, and had a little bit of discussion with them what kind of direction it could go for some first physical activity goals. And then they went back to school, and they had the task to communicate actually these first ideas of physical activity goals with the whole teaching staff, so that they also do like a onboarding with all the teachers and inform the teachers about the project, so that everybody knows what's going on. It's the idea that we're going to be like an active school. And yeah, just to inform them about the first physical activity goals, or first ideas about the physical activities. And then they came back to the third workshop, and there we had actually a focus on the preparation of the physical activity promotion strategies. So now they have like their goals, or their first goals they want to focus on, and we discussed them. Yeah, what do you now have to do that you really can implement afterwards these goals? And after the third workshop, they actually really started implementing first physical activity goals. And there they also had like the homework, or they should like do an onboarding with the whole school, so also with the students. They did all like a little bit of a starting event with all the students and the teachers, and that everybody knew, okay, now we're starting with active school. And afterwards they started to implement the first physical activity goals. And then during the fourth workshop, they came actually back with the first experiences, and we discussed with them how they can do the first evaluation of the goals, so that they can see, did it actually work, or what didn't work, and why didn't it work, and what should they maybe adapt. So that was actually then the task for after the fourth workshop. yeah, so this is actually the first year of implementation, and in total we support them for 2.5 years. So we have like the first 2 workshops here in the beginning, like the preparation period, and then the next 2 workshops they're like during the implementation period, when they actually start implementing the goals. And after the first year, we continue with some exchange meetings. So all the physical activity leaders, they always come together. It's always at the Institute of Sport Science, so that they always have like this exchange also with the other schools, because they told us they really appreciated it, that they have like the exchange with other schools, that they also can learn from each other, to hear from the other schools what are they doing, what is working at the other schools or what is not working, so that they really learn from each other. Yeah, but during the first year, like a closer support, and then we start with these exchange meetings twice per year. Yes. So is about the training, and next to the workshops, we also had like the mentoring system. So everybody from our research team was like a mentor for one physical activity leader, so that they knew in between the workshops, when I have some questions, I know who is my contact person when I have some questions. And we were also always in contact with them with the Teams application. And yeah, so there we were like in closer contact with them. And we also had like some resources, so we were able to pay the physical activity leaders with 1 lesson per week, so they actually earned some money for doing this job. And on the Teams application, we also had like the exchange folder with a lot of materials in it, like kind of ideas for physical activity promotion in schools. And in this folder, or we always motivated the schools to put new ideas or new materials they did into these folders, that they have like also this exchange between the schools. And in this folder, we also had like the Padlet link. So we did a Padlet with a lot of different ideas from the internet. I mean, when you go into the internet and have a look for physical activity promotion ideas, you get lost quite fast, because there are so many different ideas. And we try to put this all together for the schools, that they have can have like a look on the Padlet and not get lost in the internet, so that we have like everything a little bit focused. Exactly. Good. So it is about the training, or how the intervention looked like. And then about the evaluation concept. So we have like 2 cohorts. So we did like this RCT, and we had 2 cohorts in total. We had 12 schools, or we have 12 secondary schools. So 6 control schools and 6 experimental schools. And we started in 2 cohorts. So the first measurement started actually in spring 2023. And then 1 year later, we continued with 6 more schools, so 3 control, 3 experimental schools. And we just did like these 2 cohorts because of economic reason, because it was not possible to start in once with 12 schools. And for the evaluations, we always had like 3 measurement time points. You have like the baseline measurement, then the post measurement after a year, and the follow-up measurement after 2 years. And we have like 2 evaluation path or directions. So the process evaluations, here the blue boxes, and the effectiveness evaluations I told you in advance. So I'm responsible with my PhD for the effectiveness evaluations, and Andrea, the other PhD, is responsible for the process evaluation. And yeah, with the process evaluation, we actually want to have a closer look on what the schools really did, what kind of goals did they set, what did they in the end really implement, what kind of physical activity measurements. And with the effectiveness evaluations, we primarily have like a focus on the physical activity level from the students. So do they in the end really move more, or have more physical activity than in advanced? And yeah, in total, like 6 physical activity committee and principals. So Andrea is also doing like this qualitative research. So she has like a look on the physical activity leaders and the committee and the principals, and doing like ripple effect mapping. I will explain on the next slide, and also doing some interviews, so qualitative research. And for the effectiveness evaluations, we are having a look at around 700 students, so 45 classes. Yeah, around 700 students. We're doing measurements there. Yeah, and then maybe a little bit closer insight, or at the moment we're here. So we're having at the moment the whole baseline data from the effectiveness evaluation, but not the pre-post data yet. And for the process evaluation, we are having the pre and post data from both cohorts. So not all data yet, but some. And assessments tool for the process evaluation. So Andrea is usually doing the evaluation steps. She's usually doing like the document analysis, because all the schools, they have to write like a protocol. So what they're doing when they're having like a meeting with the physical activity committee or with the principals, they should write everything in the protocol. So she's going through all the protocols, and then starting doing like a map template to map everything together, what the schools did. And yeah, but these are only the informations from the protocol. So this map is actually not finished. And then she's going to the schools to do like this ripple effect mapping technique with the school staff. So with the physical activity leaders, with the principals, and with the whole physical activity committee. So actually the leader staff from the schools, and she's showing them the map and asking them afterwards some guiding questions about, yeah, what kind of implementation measures or what kind of physical activity measures did you do? And then they start to map or to fulfill the map. And then also the questions, yeah, what kind of support strategies did you do that in the end you were able to implement these physical activity measurements? So what kind of actions did you do on delivery level, and what kind of actions did you do on support level or system? And after this map is fulfilled, Andrea has a closer look on it, and maybe she's also having some open questions. And then she's going to the interview with the physical activity leader and the principals. And the first idea of the interview is just like to validate the map, that they can have another look on it and say, oh yeah, okay, everything is all right like this. And then she is also asking them some open questions she had maybe from the map, and also asking them some question about facilitator and barriers, to have like this the whole process all together on the map, what the schools really did, and then during the interviews to have like another closer look on some facilitator and barriers. And yeah, this is what it actually looks like. So this is the one school, this is another school. So this is like the whole school team with the physical activity leaders, principal, and some other teachers from the committee. Here the team is a little bit smaller, but as well, so they're actually working together, figuring out, did this map or do a lot of post-its, and we're having like these different colors. So green is like for physical activity measures, so what they really implemented, and red is like for all the support or implementation strategies they used, that in the end the goals were actually implemented. And then for the effectiveness evaluation, we have like 3 different measurements directions. So we have like the physical activity we're measuring, the main outcome. We're measuring physical activity with the Gini active accelerometers. And there we have like the different intensities, inactivity, light physical activity, and moderate rigorous physical activity, and also the step counts we're measuring. Then we're collecting the Genie Active watches during a school visit, and then they're wearing it for a whole week. After this week, we go back again to the class, collect the watches again, and then we're doing like a questionnaires with the whole class. And there we're having like some psychological variables or questionnaires, like the subjective well-being, classroom climate, learning behavior, or motivation for exercise. And after the questionnaire and collecting the devices, 1 week later, we are also doing like a motor performance test, and there we're having a look on aerobic fitness and coordination. This is during like a PE lesson. But today is like focus here on this physical activity measurements. Yeah, and actually everything about this evaluation concept is written in our study protocol, and this is already published. And yeah, maybe some initial results about the process evaluation. It's a little bit small, so you really cannot read it, but just about the idea. I mean, this is a map, how it looks in the end. It is a map from one school. And you see like these different colors. We have like green, then we have here red, and down here yellow. And the green means actually all the physical activity promotion strategies the school did. So what kind of goals were they following and what did they really implement in the end? Red means what kind of implementation strategies or support strategies did they use? So what did they have to organize in advance before they were able to implement like these physical activity goals? And the yellow part is just like the conclusion in the end. So what kind of facilitator or barriers did they have to deal with so that everything is like compromised in one way? And yeah, when we put this all together a little bit from all the schools we measured so far, we have like on the delivery level, most of the schools during the first implementation year, they started actually with implementing physical activity breaks during classroom time. This was, yeah, I think by all the schools, they started with physical activity breaks. And also some of them, or maybe half of the schools, they also started with some interventions with standing desks, because some of the schools they had already standing desks but didn't use it, and some of they hadn't, but they tried to implement some interventions with standing desk, just like with boxes on the table or something like this. And then next to some physical activity measures during classroom time, some school also focused on active recess with more like equipment boxes during the recess. So the students were able to use more equipment for during the recess time to be like more physical active. And some schools also started to do like mobile phone bans so that it's not, they needed to leave like the mobile phone in the classroom while they went out for going to recess. And yeah, this was actually quite a good idea, because afterwards the students, the teacher told us, or the physical activity leader, they told us, yeah, afterwards they really saw that they're actually walking more around when they're not on their phone and doing some screen time. And yeah, some schools, they also implemented some additional sports classes before or after schools, and the students were actually able to sign up for them. And not all, but some schools, they also did some interventions for the staff, so for the teachers. So for example, during a team meeting, some schools, they did like physical activity breaks with the teacher staff, or others also started like some additional teacher sports during lunchtime or after schools, so that the teachers were also able to do some more physical activity. And about the implementation strategies, think the most strategy or the most used strategy was actually the information during the teacher conferences, so that the physical activity leader during some conferences always or regularly informed the teacher staff about the goals and resources to use to follow these physical activity goals. Then some weekly emails with physical activity promotion ideas, because most of the physical activity leaders, they did emails with easy to use physical activity breaks during the class time. And some schools also had like this information board at the entrance of the school. So when you enter the school, you see like a huge sign with active schools and with a lot of ideas on it. So what is at the moment the goal and what kind of ideas can you follow, so that the students and also the teachers knew, okay, they always got to remind, we are an active school, we should follow the goals and implement the goals. Yes. And some additional strategies, just the physical activity leaders told us that it was really helpful to distribute the responsibilities within the physical activity committee, so that all the different people from the leading staff knew, okay, I'm responsible for this task, you're responsible for this task. So this was really necessary that it got to work. And some barriers and challenges on teacher level, it was always the same, like the time that the teachers, they don't have a lot of time to implement new physical activity measures, and sometimes also the know-how that they don't know how to implement, or they don't have a lot of enough ideas, and that's why somehow also the motivation was not that high. So yeah, just for us, good to know that it's really important to give them like ready to use material that they can afterwards start implementing it, because they have no time, and sometimes when the know-how is not there, it's good to have like easy to use material. Yes, that's from the process evaluation side, and then from the effectiveness evaluations, we actually wanted to cut the physical activity data in different settings over the school day and also during free time, because when you have like these whole physical activity data, it would be nice to have like a closer look on when and where are they moving, how much or don't they move, to give like some closer recommendations where it should be nice to promote more physical activity. And we cut the data in different settings. So we have like the data for PE, for recess, classroom time, then the entire school time, and also the free time. And then we had like also always the inactivity, light physical activity, and moderate to rigorous physical activity. And you can see actually in all the segments, the part from inactivity is always the biggest. And the MVPA part is in all the segments the smallest. So actually in all the segments we can do better, or our schools can do better to promote more physical activity. And when you have a closer look on the recommendations, because some papers, they also give like recommendations for the different settings. So during PE, for example, that it would be nice to have like 50% of MVPA during the lesson. And in our sample, only 5.5% of the adolescents are actually reaching this goal. Then during recess, like 40% of MVPA, what the recommendation is, and only 4.3% of our adolescents are reaching these recommendations. And when you have like a look on the whole school day, it is usually said that during the whole school day, like 30 minutes of MVPA, so the whole of the daily recommendations should be reached during the school time. There we have like 49% of adolescents reaching these recommendations, and always more boys, so 36% boys reaching the recommendations and less girls, so 37% of the girls reaching these recommendations. So yeah, they're actually not reaching the recommendations in most of the segments. So yeah, it's important in all the segments to do like more physical activity promotions. Yeah, yeah, that's why we cutted it in these different segments to have like a closer look on it. And when we compare like boys and girls, we also see like we have like here's the whole sample, and then the boys, the girls, and when we compare like entire school time with leisure time, we have like a difference between the girls. So the girls are moving more or show more physical activity level during the free time than during school time. So it looks like that the girls are like compensating during, or have like a compensation during the free time, to move more during free time. And it looks like that the needs from the girls are actually not fulfilled during the school time, or the opportunities or the school setting does actually not fit with the needs from the girls. So, and this difference we don't see actually between the boys, so they move the same between schools and leisure time. Yeah, so this could also be like something important to have a closer look on for future recommendations or analysis. And yeah, what we want to focus in future. So we are doing like this baseline paper with the whole baseline data, where we want to show these different segments and how it looks with the fulfillment of the recommendations in these different segments. And then the idea is also to do like a second paper with the baseline data, because we always see, okay, girls are moving less than the boys in all the segments. And we see that the girls are like moving more during leisure time. So the needs are not fulfilled during school times maybe. But we also see that some girls are actually reaching the recommendation, or these 30 minutes of MVPA during the school times, and that there are also some boys who are not reaching these recommendations. So it would be nice to have like a little bit a closer look on it. What kind of girls and what kind of boys, or what are the characteristics of these boys and girls who are not reaching the recommendations. And that's why we tried, or we want to try to do like some latent profile analysis, also with some psychological variables, to have like a closer look on it. Yeah, what kind of girls and what kind of boys do really not fulfill the recommendations, and how do they move during school time, or maybe also during leisure time. So this is an idea for the second paper, and the third and the last paper from my PhD will actually be like this effectiveness paper about the pre-post data, because I have not enough time during my PhD to also have like a look on the follow-up data. So I will focus on the pre-post data, and in October we should have all the data from the pre-post sample from both of the cohorts. So then I can actually start and write down this pre-post paper for the effectiveness evaluation. So this is like the outlook, and here some initial results from the first cohort, where we had a look on the pre-post data from MVPA during the classroom time and the steps counts during the classroom time. And there we see actually a difference between experimental and control schools. So the experimental schools, that they move in the end actually a little bit more and do a little bit more steps compared to the control schools. But yeah, as I said, it's just data from the first cohort. It's not significant, and it's like a small difference. But yeah, let's see how it looks when you have the full data sample. Would be nice to have then in the end some significant results. And I showed you in the process evaluation that most of the schools, they started actually with physical activity breaks or interventions with standing desks. So really like physical activity goals during the classroom time. And actually nice that we see here some results in this directions, or effects in this direction. And yeah, maybe a little bit further outlook. I mean, this is like the evaluation of active school of this RCT study, but in the end, it is actually the idea to do like a scale up of active school to reach like more schools, not only in the canton of Bern, maybe also in some other cantons, in Switzerland. And yeah, there we have like some initial ideas. It's like a little bit packed, this slides, but I can maybe go through what the ideas are, because we as research team, when we want to scale up, we don't have the resources to do all these workshops or this physical activity leader training with all the schools. So that's why we are thinking about doing like a training for, or like a training for experienced physical activity leaders. So we have now like 6 schools for implementing active schools, and there we have like this experienced physical activity leaders. The idea is that we do like some further workshops with them to teach them how they afterwards can support some new physical activity leaders, that they can do like a little bit the new positions from kind of a mentor. We did in advance with them. So that we do like some workshops for new mentors, so old physical activity leaders, and that some new physical activity leaders can maybe do like an online training and learn all the informations about the project, and also get the resources for the need assessment during like maybe an online training. And then the idea is that everybody comes together, like we as a research team, the mentors, so the old physical activity leaders and the new physical activity leaders, to do like a network exchange, that the new mentors can actually face-to-face tell from their experiences with active schools, and that the new physical activity leaders also can learn from them. And then they start to discuss with each other, or to talk with each other, and the mentors start to support the new physical activity leaders also in doing like some action plans. And after this network exchange meeting is actually the idea that the new physical activity leaders go to school and start to implement active schools with the need assessment. And to this, after the network exchange meeting, it's really should be like the part from the mentors, so the old physical activity leaders, to support the new physical activity leaders, so that they are always like in contact with them, and not we as a research team. And yeah, if the physical activity leaders have some questions, they can go to the mentors and ask them. And it would be nice to also do like a community of practice platform, like an online platform, where it is possible for them to have like the exchange. And maybe it's also possible for further teachers to join this platform, that in the end, a lot of different school staffs can have like an exchange online. And it is also the idea to go further with these network exchange meetings, that maybe twice a year everybody comes together, so the mentors, new physical activity leader, and we as a research team, that they always have this face-to-face contact and face-to-face exchange. And maybe it would be also nice to do like a conference, that also teacher can attend, to go to this conference, to have like an exchange in a little bit a bigger way. And yes, the mentors, the idea is actually to get now some funding, that we also can pay them to have like this mentor position. And for the new physical activity leader, it would be nice to do that like in a way that they can do this online training and the new task as physical activity leader in kind of like professional development training, so that they also have like a goal to do it, and not just like, yeah, I have to do it, so that they really have like a something out of it. Yeah, so that are like the initial idea about the scale up. And it would be really nice to, or I would be really happy to answer your questions. And yeah, maybe we can also discuss a little bit about these initial scale up ideas. And yeah, open to you. Thanks for your attention.
Thanks, Marion. And up to the audience here for questions. I'll start with my question.
Yeah.
So in terms of the research you found, what's the most effective way of getting kids active?
The most effective way?
Yeah, is it the mentor? Is it the type of activity? What's the most effective that you see?
Yeah, I mean, for sure, the motivation from the teachers, or we experience that we also have like different physical activity leaders. Some of them are really motivated. I mean, all of them are motivated, or some of them are doing like a little bit a better job.
Yep.
Others less. And there we really see like difference between the schools. It starts like at the physical activity leaders level. And when they go to the schools in a like motivated way, they are also able to motivate the teachers afterwards. And I think this is really the important part we also can influence, because we have like contact with the physical activity leaders. So yeah, that this is what we experience in a way that there are also huge differences between physical activity leaders.
Yep.
Yeah.
So from my question would be really similar as the previous question. So can you just explain a bit more about the content of your workshop?
You're hearing.
Yeah. So, if I understood correctly, the main variable in your workshop would be goal setting and goal implement. So how do you promote the teachers to set a goal, and how to promote teachers to implement that goal? A little bit about the motivation. Yeah.
Yeah, it's actually everything. The physical activity leader is actually always in between. So we have like contact with physical activity leaders during the workshop, and they show us the resources from the need assessment. So they have like the answers from the questionnaires from the students and from the teachers. What do they really need? How to implement more physical activity in schools? And then we discuss with them what kind of direction you can set the goal. So maybe the students are saying, oh, they want to have more physical activity options during recess. So maybe it would be nice to set the goal in this direction. And then they go back to school and inform actually the whole teacher staff about these goals, so that the teacher also knowing, okay, we're doing like a physical activity goal during recess. So we try to bring more equipment during, or like an equipment box for recess, or we want to do more physical activity during classroom time. So the idea is to implement more physical activity breaks. So the physical activity leader afterwards are telling the teachers what the goals are, and sometimes they also discuss with the teachers, should we adapt the goals a little bit, or what are your opinions? So just to be like in an experts. And then when the goals are set, the physical activity leaders, they prepare actually all the materials, kind of like, for example, the emails that they send to all the teacher staff with the physical activity breaks ideas, and afterwards the teacher can use that to implement. It's kind of like the answer you.
Yeah, so my expectation was the kind of in order to kind of theoretical framework.
Yeah.
So sometimes what we do is in order to promote teacher motivation to set a goal or some other some strategies, then we provide some data evidence information or some theoretical framework. So that's what I actually expected. How you promote the teachers to adopt some goal setting or some activities or something different.
We also inform them before we start the project about the approach and why it is actually important to do like more physical activity in schools, because you also like an effect from physical activity on, for example, some other outcomes or some like how can I say it, mathematics or other stuff of outcomes, to motivate them also like kind of like in these ways. Yeah.
Couple of just logistic questions. First of all, you have to have incredible school buy-in. So I guess you have to start with the principal and then work down. And I would think that at least in Australian schools and high schools, you'd have great trouble getting anybody but the PE teachers to, they would give token support to this. It's a good thing, but will they give up class time for people to do that? And okay, that's one question. The other question is, tell me about the ethics. Was that a nightmare? I know. Did you because it's a whole school program and buy-in, do you circumvent ethics? Or did you have to get permission from every student's parents to be part of this?
Yeah, actually for the effective evaluation, we had like the permissions from, or the confirmations from all the parents from the students.
And
So they had like this.
so what
confirmation
percentage
form.
of the parents did you get this from?
Sorry?
What percentage of the parents did you get permission from?
Did all the parents say yes to get the certificate?
No, not all.
So
But
what was
most of them.
most?
But usually, I don't know if it was like the parents' decision or also the students' decision, because they're adolescents, so also a lot of students were not so motivated to be part of like 1 week wearing this device. But at least we had some incentives during all the measurement time points. So we tried to motivate them for all the measurement time points.
So I guess what you've set up is that you've created blocks of time in the school before or after or during school where they have more physical activity.
Yeah.
And does this take away from the regular curriculum school time, or is this somehow or another fit in between classes or?
No, it somehow fit in. It doesn't take away some curriculum time.
And
It takes a little bit away from curriculum time when you do like physical activity breaks with no I don't have the word in English. But yeah, I mean during recess time and before and after school, maybe implementation of more sport lesson, it's the students, they can choose if they want to attend there or not. So it's not.
And this is driven primarily by somebody that you have connection with that's oftentimes, but not always, a PE teacher. And they're sort of responsible for selling it to the rest of the school.
If we have connections with who? What is the question?
Is the primary responsibility for seeing that this gets implemented?
Yeah.
Is it the PE teacher or the person that you work with?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they're like primarily responsible to have like a look that everything is going to work. So they also have like a look at is it going to be implemented or not. But for sure, also from our side, from the research team during this process evaluation, we also have like a closer look at it. Yeah.
And I hate to keep using math teachers, but that's a good example. So if you have a math teacher, are you going to ask them to give up 5 minutes of their class for some physical activity?
We are not doing this as a research team, the physical activity leaders. So school intern teachers are doing that.
Yeah, okay. Okay.
Yeah, but for sure, this is always like an issue and it's not so easy because teachers have no time. Yeah?
Anecdotally, as my wife's a maths teacher, but she will get her kids to get up and about even for a minute because it kind of refocuses them even in a 1 hour period. It's just because they're all get them up, do some exercise, get back down, and they actually refocus. There is a lot of benefits to that in other subjects as well, not just physical education.
Just a quick question. So in terms of the latent analysis, where you said that there may be differences in IPPE within girls and then within boys as well. And then there could be potential psychological variables. Have you already identified any potential variables that could be contributing to this? Like on the top of my head, and I think Karen can comment on this, like with the iPlay project as well.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if it was tested, but one of the propositions was that maybe there is a difference in the level of motivation of girls. So, I mean, that's one variable that I can think of. But like, have you identified any other potential variables that you will be looking for to?
Yeah, we did some first or initial analysis with the self-concept, but also motivation. and the coordination and aerobic fitness. So with these 4 variables, we did actually some profiles.
And how did you identify these variables?
We focused on the one model or concept from, oh, now I have it not in mind, but I can show you afterwards.
Yes, yeah, sure, that makes sense. Thank
Yeah.
you. I'll just have a quick question. Thank you. Just in terms of incentives, what sort of incentives did you use for students to
So
engage?
during the first measurement time point, they were actually able to choose between a voucher for a bowling entrance to play some bowling, or a voucher for an entrance for going to a trampoline hall. So like some physical activities. And second was just like something small, like a giveaway. And the third measurement, they were able to be part of the we had like some vouchers for this leisure park, or like Europa Park with roller coasters and stuff. So they were able to get to win some vouchers. Yes, we didn't have vouchers for all the students. It would have been too expensive, but we had some. Yeah.
Any other questions before we wrap this up?
Oh, that's one.
Another quick question. How did you recruit school?
Recruit.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of personal contact as well, and teachers we knew, and sometimes as well we knew some motivated physical activity or the physical education teachers, and they were actually interested in for this position as physical activity leader. And then we were initially always in contact with the new physical activity leaders, and they afterwards went to the principals, and then they had like the conversation with the whole school if they want to be part from active schools. Yeah, I think most of the time during principals or PE teachers first contact for like new physical activity.
Karen?
Yeah, so, I mean, I think this is broadly what implementation science is saying is the between these sort of tightly controlled interventions have the largest voltage drop when they need to scale up, and so you have to provide interventions where there's more flexibility. One of the challenges with that flow that we have in iPlay was we let our iPlay leaders pick strategies that they would implement.
Yeah.
But we quite deliberately didn't let them bring their own strategies. And the rationale was that teachers aren't the experts, they don't know what works. They know what works in their school, but they don't know what works in general. And so I have just a classic example of this was that when we asked leaders, what would you like to implement? They often said things like education, like we did more lessons with the students, teach them back and then for some physical activity. And we know that doesn't work, but it just doesn't change kids' behavior. So how did you deal with the sort of tension between you as the content experts, making sure that the strategies they're going to implement are going to be efficacious versus wanting to sort of allow them scope to co-design their own intervention? Does that make sense?
Don't get it.
So were they always able to bring their own strategies? Or
Yeah.
did you sometimes say to them, that's an interesting strategy, but it's not going to work, so let's pick something that is.
Yeah, I mean, during the workshops, we were always in discussions with them. I mean, they showed us their experiences, their goals, what they did. And yeah, I mean, when we saw it's you implement the goal, but it makes maybe not sense. Also, when we have a look on the main outcome, MBPA, then yeah, we discussed with them and said like, yeah, maybe would be nice to adapt it a little bit in a way that you have like afterwards some more effect also on the main outcome. But yeah, first they always were able to set their own goals, and when we saw like, it's maybe going in a way or in a direction was like not so good, then we always discussed it with them. Yeah.
Well, thank you very much again. And so on behalf of IPPE, could you leave these to take away? Pack of Tim Tams and Vegemite. Another round of applause. Thanks very much, Marion. Oh, the drop bear. We've got the drop bear.
Yeah, this one is for Fred, right? How do you need it?